Good afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. I see you, 1804 Banks, The Lone Silencer, Terry Murnane, 92 Charlie, Annette, Matt O'Brien, Hard X Core, Sleepy Joe. Thank you all for tuning in. I know I see the lieutenant. I guess he's not teaching at his college right now. Or maybe he doesn't want his, I don't know. I think he might have written a book or two. But thank you all for tuning in. Enough with that guy, really. And also, if you're watching on YouTube right now, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well. We're almost at 55,000 subscribers. So from the other day at 50, we're almost at 55 on the Finest Unfiltered. So let's keep that momentum going. If you're watching on Rumble, hit that like button, hit the Rumble button if you can. And if you're watching live right now, streaming all over the world on X, please hit that like button and share this out with all your friends, especially those in that low information bubble. Shout out to you too, Frankie Palaguachi. I see you're in here. There's a lot that has happened in the last couple hours. There's the meeting with Mamdani and Trump that went exactly the way I told you all. It's a WWE. You guys still think it's real. You had Jessica Tisch, the soccer mom, remains as the police commissioner. But the number one issue is what happened in the 109 precinct over the weekend. It's like a national headline, all right, what happened in the 109. But before I show you the video and break this down for everyone, please, on the screen, can we put up the 109 crime stats? Now, this is the 109 crime stats telling you crime is down up until the end of last week, which can't be because there was this violent incident that occurred, right? Look at that, 11/17 to 11/23, which is what happened. This happened on the 22nd into the 23rd, correct? This incident that I'm about to show you. And you notice that all these crime numbers are all down. Remember, they got to tell you crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. The soccer bomb is great. No great accomplishments, but somehow the soccer bomb, with all crime flourishing and, nobody could go on the subway, people getting robbed in the street, assaulted, but crime is down and Eric Adams nowhere to be found is the reason for it, right? So, and by the way, let's reiterate one other thing. This incident you're about to see, Eric Adams is the mayor. Eric Adams is the mayor, not Zoran Mamdani. He doesn't get anointed until the 1st. That's when he gets sworn in. Eric Adams is the mayor right now. All of this is under Eric Adams. So please, let's not conflate the two. Here is what happened here in Malba. This is in Queens. This is actually in Vicky Palladino's district. I mean, you see a plethora of people. There's all kinds of madness going on. They're circling a car that they lit on fire, which is arson, by the way. That is arson. There's a bunch of people here, and there's other things that went on as this occurred. So you see them doing donuts. I mean, this is a nightly thing under Eric Adams. It started under Bill de Blasio, and we weren't allowed to enforce anything. There you go. The car just right there, just completely, now it's engulfed, and you can't even try to get when you make an insurance claim, they're not going to, you're not getting this car back. It's what do they call that? Damaged for good or something. And here's one of the headlines to go with this. New York City Mayor Eric Adams heading to New Orleans for an award from the same group that honored him in Israel. This guy left. He was in Israel, Uzbekistan, Washington, D.C., looking for his next gig, comes back while this is going on, and some issue happened in a synagogue also, and he's gone. He's going out to New Orleans, and he's getting honored by, I guess, a group of people from Israel or something. The same 33% that voted for Mamdani are now rewarding the 3-card Mamdani and giving him an award. I guess he's getting an award for worst mayor in the history of New York City. This is the fire department trying to put out this fire. And that's just one vehicle. Because there's multiple vehicles, I believe. Each arson, each incident of arson is also supposed to be its own report. That's one of the main things in the police department. I mean, they teach us, that you know, that's the way it should be. I'm gonna show you that that's not what happened here. So, shout out. I see Frankie Palaguacci in the chat. $9.99 the Sal Greco Show. Thank you, Frankie, for always supporting us. Says, happy Thanksgiving, brother. The apology task force will be created in 2026. Yes, that was one of the things that occurred as well. An apology from the police department is ridiculous. Now, and again, look, you see this video? What is that? That is a gang assault, my friend. So they all assaulting a human being. This is the same incident in Malva there in Queens. So you're seeing multiple incidents occur. And by the way, you attack someone, that is also its own report, which we call a 61 in the New York City Police Department. It's not 161 with 10,000 things on it. There's multiple victims and multiple perpetrators. There you see more than two people, and they're all covering their face. So now let's, I'm going to put on the screen what John McCarry had to say about this, because this caught fire, and we had a lot of people chime in on this. So he says this: according to Queens residents who were at the scene, the NYPD took 45 minutes to respond to an incident where a man suffered multiple broken bones, serious injuries after being assaulted by a gang of jackals and struck with weapons. Another man was also assaulted, and his car was destroyed after being lit on fire, all of which were captured on camera. Question for the NYPD: were the criminal reports taken for felony gang assault, felony reckless endangerment, felony arson, along with many misdemeanor charges, or did the 109 precinct just make sure that crime is down and take the reports as misdemeanors? I would bet the latter. So let's play that video, because it shows you a lot of what happened. And I believe also, like I said, Vicky Palladino was involved in this afterwards. So let's see this. This was from WABC, Channel 7 in New York.
Driving, violent crowds, and a car set ablaze. A nightmare scenario for one Queens community. And it was all promoted on social media. People who live in that neighborhood in Malva called police. They are fed up. Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon talked to those neighbors in this Eyewitness News exclusive.
The squealing of tires doing donuts in the large round intersections of Malva, Queens are an ongoing nuisance for neighbors. But they say what happened overnight Saturday into Sunday went too far.
Over 100 of them just filled the streets and wreaked havoc and terror on this neighborhood.
Cameras captured the cars flooding 141st Street for a car meetup promoted on social media. The car in the middle actually belonged to a security guard posted here to keep an eye on homes. Neighbor Larry Rush had tried to help.
Obviously, they were doing their spin outs, this, that, and the other thing. So to try and slow it down, I got in the car and I moved it into the middle.
Then someone in the rowdy crowd tossed some sort of incendiary device into it.
It exploded inside, and then 2 minutes later, the whole car was engulfed in flames.
The security guard's car was left torched. Neighbors say that was bad enough, but then some of the meetup participants beat up a homeowner who had come outside with his phone in hand and posted videos of the assault on social media.
He was treated for a broken shoulder, broken ribs, broken nose. His wife was punched in the face.
A neighbor who asked that we not use his name saw the fire, ran over and witnessed the assault, and the victim's wife calling the police.
The police have been very responsive to everything. Unfortunately, last night that wasn't the case. While she was on the phone, it took them, 45 minutes. I stayed with him until the police arrived.
Tonight, neighbors gathered here for a meeting of support and to call for a stepped-up police presence. Their council member says there's more the city can do to prevent these intersections from being so appealing to joyriders.
I have had DOT here at least a dozen times explaining to them what needs to be done with speed bumps.
In the meantime, they're hoping police get to the bottom of what happened this weekend.
To beat up a neighbor like that, that's bad. I hope somebody catches them, and I hope we find out.
In Malva, Queens, Sonia Rincon, Channel 7.
Yeah, that is an unbelievable scene. And before we show you, Vicky Palladino actually responded to John. So before that, though, yeah, see, there it is. But before that, we'll show you that, though. Let's show you the before and after picture of that exact street corner. Okay, because this is important to see. That's the before. That's what that corner looks like. 141st and 11th. You see it spinning around. This is the exact same street corner. See? Same house, same exactly where that car was parked in the middle. All right. And then let's show you the aftermath. Yeah. That is the aftermath of what happened there. You see all the skid marks. You see the car that was lit on fire, just left there to burn. That could have caused a lot of problems. You're lucky the car didn't just blow up completely. You know, there's gasoline in cars. Right in the middle, there was another, I believe it was another vehicle there. As you can see the char from the car. I mean, this is unbelievable that this happened in and Malba's a nice little neighborhood, because you know that the criminals are going to come into the inner cities. You think you're safe? That's not going to happen. Now, not under this mayor. And now let's put up what Vicky Palladino wrote. She wrote back under John McCarry from what he had said. This is what she wrote. I'm personally making sure that the charges on the report are appropriate. Felony assault, gang assault, and arson. The initial reports were misdemeanors, but we cleared that up once all the videos were submitted as evidence. I will be following the charges closely to ensure they are properly reported. So just so you guys realize, those reports were put in as misdemeanors. Why? Because crime is down, folks. You didn't know that? You don't take violent felonies anymore. We don't take violent crimes in New York City because it's the safest big city in America. Eric Adams is the greatest mayor in the history of New York City. And Jessica Tisch, the soccer mom, who has absolutely zero clue how to run anything, she might know how to run her family's empire. Maybe she could run the Giants, the football team her father co-owns with the Mara family, and now they have a new owner, Koch. But as far as running the NYPD, this is laughable. And right there, okay, like I said, each victim gets their own felony report taken, whether it's for assault, whether it's for also being hit with a weapon. That's another 61. There's supposed to be 61s for all of this, and it's all felonies. Like I said, reckless endangerment. Each property or vehicle that was damaged due to arson. Also, gang assault. These are all felonies. These are not misdemeanors. I again, you have the lieutenant in this chat, Mr. I teach at the university, thinks he's smarter than you. Guys, don't give this guy any attention. Sooner or later, someone's just going to drop the log on this guy. He could lose. He could fight with the guys at his university and the New York City Police Department. It's a real shame that that this individual just doesn't let up. I just don't pay attention. But again, like I said, these incidents are all felonies. And they were reported as misdemeanors. And then, as you could tell on the comp stat, crime is down. Crime is down. So everything we've told you here on this network, on this show, especially in regards to the soccer mom and Eric Adams and how they've been running this whole thing for 4 years, is right in front of your face. And busted up from the sitting councilwoman, Vicky Palladino, who confirms that she's all over this. And there's a little more. Because before I was going to have Jack on a little early, but I'm going to read this for you so you guys really, you can understand the 61s and the reports, how they're supposed to happen. This is from the Daily News, which gets into this, because there's also a fact at the end I'm going to tell you about. Pics released of wanted suspects and Rowdy Queen's car meetup beatdown. This was by Rocco Parascandolo. It was written early this morning, okay? And these are pictures of these skells. So 2 young men beat up a 50-year-old Queens man who objected to their rowdy car meetup, fled onto the nearby Whitestone Expressway, but not before they were caught on surveillance cameras. Just so you know right there, that's a felony. That is a felony, what I just told you. Of course, the 109 CO will probably tell you differently. Police said the duo, both believed to be between 18 and 24, were among dozens of people who showed up early Sunday near 141st Street and 11th Avenue in Whitestone for a car meetup involving drag racing, donuts, and other stunts. This is now a common trend under Eric Adams' administration. Things quickly got out of hand, police said, with a parked and unoccupied Ford Fusion catching fire about 12:30 a.m. when fireworks were set off near the vehicle. 10 minutes later, Blake Ferrer, who lives on the block, was set upon when he yelled for the troublemakers to get away from his home. There were over 50 cars right on my block in all different directions, 4 to 6 people getting out of each car to go watch the drag racing and lighting a car on fire, said the victim's wife, Melissa Ferrer, also 50. We were just trying to get people to leave and get off our property. We shouldn't have confronted all these people. They were young and ended up attacking us. I was fighting people off to protect my husband in my house, she added. He has fractures all over his body. One person punched me. Once my husband was down, they knew not to go further or else they would have killed him. They scattered and went into the cars. Medics rushed the husband, who suffered a broken nose and ribs, to New York Presbyterian Hospital, Queens, in stable condition. That's another 61, folks. So that's a felony assault, right, on this person. Plus, there's a felony assault, 1, because of the weapon they used, or 2, it's got to be a felony with a weapon, serious physical injury, and a 61 for gang assault, because it's a bunch of them. It's not just one person. It says Vicky Palladino in a post on X blamed a large group of individuals from outside my district and said the NYPD was slow to respond, which is true. She said these violent street takeovers should be met with maximum force by the police department. We never had these problems before. Now it's an epidemic. What changed? We stopped arresting criminals. An NYPD spokesperson later said a chief met with Palladino local residents on Sunday and that patrols will be increased in the neighborhood. The spokesperson noted it was a busy night in the precinct and cops were responding to multiple high-priority incidents, including a DWI arrest, a hospital transport, and a crash with injuries. The car meetup incident was escalated to a criminal mischief case as more information came in, and patrol supervisor then arrived on scene about 10 minutes later. Clearly, that wasn't the case. So they're trying to course correct. Here's what really happened, folks, and this has been confirmed. In the 109 precinct this night, there was only 2 vehicles. That's 4 cops working plus the patrol supervisor. That's the reality of why it was 45 minutes late. And I understand people could be on vacation. It's Thanksgiving week. But, you know, when the admin lieutenant has 2 females, when the crime analysis guy has his female in there, and all these cops that are doing administrative work are not out there on the street, this is what happens. This is what happens. So, again, it's not there's 35,000 cops, 25,000. It's they put these cops in administrative roles and you don't have enough cops in the street. Take them out of these stupid positions that this idiot Kaz Daughtry put them in, all right? You don't need 80 people in DCPI and all these other fake units they put up, and you have them back on the streets, and you won't have this issue. You won't have 50-minute delays because 4 cops, 2 cars, that's a mess. And the chief should also answer for that because you're the borough chief. If you have problems in a precinct, then the other precincts that have 20 cars or 10 cars or wherever it is, let them hang around in the 109 to help out. But crime is down, folks. So that's the real story of what's going on here. So I'm going to bring on producer Jack to give his whole civilian outlook on this because, you know, I know you know that area well. So what is your thoughts on this fiasco that occurred in Queens?
I know that area very well, and I can't imagine being a homeowner who paid between $1.1 and $6.5 million, owning a very expensive property which has a lot of equity in it in the area, and then having mayhem ensue right outside my front door to the point that I can't even call a police officer to show up within a half hour, at which point it's too late. By the time they get there, the cars are already burning, the kids have already moved on to the next thing, and the damage is done. We've been warning people all across the tri-state area about these decreased response times for months. You want to pay people to go down to these administrative posts where they're making $300,000 a year. The unions want to petition for raises every 5 months in a down economy. Well, guess what? This is going to be the consequence, especially in an era where you're losing about 300 cops per month. There's no way you're going to be able to have anything remotely resembling sane 911 response times when all of these things are happening. And sadly, the end result, consequentially, is Malba and other very wealthy neighborhoods start to resemble Portland and Chicago and other blue cities that are having similar issues.
Yeah. And listen, it is a blue city. I understand that. But when you talk about crime statistics as well, it's only crime is down, meaning reported crime, which they can manipulate. Obviously, here is a lot of crimes, and you're not. And I already showed you that they're not even reporting that the way it should be, because you keep having the lieutenant, rile up the people in it when you shouldn't. Guys, I don't know if you know, this guy wrote a book too. So he likes these. This guy's a real winner. I'm just letting you guys know. But the crime stats, all this nonsense they feed you is manipulated. So if this crime occurred on the 23rd, why are there no felonies on here? Because you just saw a plethora of them. Look, it says crime is down. Look at all those numbers. Crime is down week to date. Felony assaults, it's not 7, right? Where is it? Arson is on here. Is it felony assaults? How many occurred there? Because you had a bunch of people assaulting one person alone, and there was more than one person. But it's telling you it's down, right? It doesn't even report it. So what we tell you is true. Then they admitted that, oh, wait, we have to change. It was just criminal mischief. And then, so they snuck it in. They're telling you crime is down. They wrote criminal mischief. It's a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, you have a ton of felonies writing around. Oh, yeah, now the videos. Yeah, the videos were out right away, Jack. It weren't like it were hiding. You got caught lying about things, which is what you've had since day one with Eric Adams. All right. Oh, I did forget, too. Anyone over 65 is a felony assault if you victimize anyone over 65. That happened also. So all of that is a scam. The whole thing is a scam. It's designed to make Eric Adams and, of course, the soccer mom, the greatest police commissioner in history. That's what's making it, making you think that it's a – I don't care what this guy says in the chat. His whole thing is that's like me saying, okay, just write down 2 things happen and don't write the other things. And that's what these people are known to do. All right? I don't know what he's teaching at his university either, because that guy should not be teaching anyone. It's a shame. It's lieutenant. And we remember a name like with that name Juju. Yeah, it could mean voodoo, but it could also rhyme with somebody's real name. Just saying.
Right. And this is where perception and reality couldn't be further off. If I'm a resident, as I was role playing earlier too, I'm asking the local precincts and maybe calling up One Police Plaza and saying, how much is this butchering of the statistics that you guys are performing? How much of this is happening citywide? Because if it's happening in my neighborhood, I'm led to believe it's happening in the neighborhood next to me, neighborhoods in Manhattan. And then proportionately speaking, is it happening more so in rich neighborhoods where the police want people to feel safe on the streets as opposed to bad neighborhoods where residents are already scared? Because I have to believe that in rich neighborhoods, they're telling them, oh, everything's okay, crime's down, there's no mayhem on the streets, you can go out. But in reality, there's felonies being committed all over the neighborhood, which are being downgraded to misdemeanors. So now they don't have to put them on CompStat. And this is kind of the domino and trickle-down effect, which leads to the neighbors and the neighborhood being a whole lot less safe, problematically so.
Yeah, I mean, Hard X Core says here, murder and shooting stats don't affect most people who aren't in the perp game. Quality of life matters most, and that's in the gutter. He has a good take on it because, this thing, the stats, they lying about the stats so they could tell you the scheme of, oh, crime is down. Remember, they don't also report on a shooting. So if you shoot a gun, unless this bullet hits a human being, right, then they don't count it. They don't count shootings. We used to always have to take it. Shots fired. You know how? Because that's how you could track what's going on in the neighborhood. Of course, then you can't say crime is down. I'm the greatest commanding officer in the history of the New York State Police Department, and the soccer mom is the greatest police commissioner. But then that would be on you, because then you're misleading the public. And I spoke to a retired chief yesterday that said that's not how he ever did it, because he goes, that's misleading the public. We represent the public. So I'm letting you know how real cops feel about this. This is all a sham, and it's all on Eric Adams and the soccer mom. They want you to believe that they're the greatest. They don't like this. I know they're upset that they got caught out on a whim with this, but, you know, I don't know what to tell you. You have to start being honest with the people, because this is ridiculous that you do things like this. You know, a 92 Charlie said, desk officer being questioned by CO about 61s, and desk questions the cops and forcing cops to rewrite 61s. Yeah, and you know how that works, though. So the CO tells the patrol supervisors and the platoon commanders, lieutenants, you have to take a 61 and blah, 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 and do X, Y, and Z. So then when a cop writes it the way they are because they've been instructed to, then they come back and say, oh, the cop wrote it wrong. I told them to fix it. And that's how they take the blame off of them. But really, they're just all doing what the CO instructs them to do. This is coming from the top. It's not from the lowest guy. Yeah, the cops are going to tell you, yeah, don't take, we can't take the report for this. And there's no, you know, why should we do this and why should we do that? But really, that's how it runs. I'm just explaining to you, Jack, and everyone out there, some that know this because they live it every day still in the police department. That's how this works. So this whole incident is the commanding officer is basically doing the bidding of the upper echelon and not reporting things the way it is, so that you are bamboozled, like you got two buffoons in this room that are telling you crime is down. Look at this report. Reported crime is down. Not crime's not down. And you know how you know they didn't report this correctly either. And it's right in front of your eyes, and they admitted it. So they got caught. Everyone got caught, you know, and we told you so. And yet, you know, you're still going to have the cheerleaders telling you they're great. You know, it's awesome. Eric Adams is the greatest. Let's have a parade for him. He's having one in New Orleans, apparently, by the same people connected to the 33% of the Jewish population that voted for Mamdani. And it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, you've been forewarned already. And I feel sorry. You know, Vicky Palladino was really, you know, putting a hammer down on these people. And they're still trying to run circles around. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was just, it was more than criminal mischief. Yeah. We had a lot going on that night. Oh, like 4 cops working instead of like 8, 9, 10. Like because you have the 2 females and this working with the admin lieutenant, the creep, and then you got the crime analysis needs a cop up there. The traffic sergeant needs his cop. Oh, so those 5, 6 people that could be out on patrol can't be on patrol because they have to serve the supervisor who could clearly do the work themselves or have a civilian do it. That's why you need to hire more civilians. Now you're starting to see what I've been always trying to say. No, I don't agree with Mamdani's ideology. I'm just telling you, to be efficient, you need to hire more civilians. You have enough cops, but you can't have them lingering around in these do-nothing positions. Because it's the people in the street, which is the troops, right? They're taking a beating. That's why this whole thing was worse than it should have been. Why? Cops can't respond when you have all the cops hanging out in their admin roles, or civilian roles. It is what it is. This, in a nutshell, explains everything in full circle.
So this is also why it's important to enforce quality of life issues, so mayhem and chaos doesn't ensue. That's something I would like to emphasize from the civilians angle. If you let people go out on the street and play loud music, they're going to think they can start burning things, yelling, smoking weed out in the open, drinking, smashing the bottles. It escalates at a very dangerously fast pace, to the point that by the time you realize, hey, we should have been enforcing the rules and the laws a little bit earlier, it's actually too late. In hindsight, Sal, we're lucky that there were people who were not killed or very dangerously hurt in the mayhem. I know one man broke his arm and was in a sling or whatever, but someone could have been left paralyzed. Someone could have been killed. Someone could have been brutally injured to the point that they were disabled the rest of their life. And in hindsight, we all would have been pointing fingers trying to blame the next man, instead of saying, you know, these Q teams that we deployed with the khaki pants should have actually been policing these neighborhoods a little bit more aggressively. Yet there are advocates who are in the community saying, no, we can't have proactive policing. It's dangerous. Stop and frisking is abusive. There's been this battle of the narratives, which has undermined the overall importance and emphasis on public safety in New York City. And sadly, it's evidenced in instances like these.
Yeah. You know, Special Hagen said, has the NYPD given a plan of action to secure Malba and to apprehend the suspects? Had the residents not had Ring cameras, they wouldn't have photos of their faces. you know something? Without those people who were out there and taking videos of this stuff, you would have heard that this was just a misdemeanor. Let's be honest. That's what they would have said. It's just another night in New York. And you can look at this area in Whitestone. All right. And again, they're attacking. These are definitely people that don't live in this area. This is a nice area to live in, but this was bound to happen. They're going to come to the nice areas and start to act like a bunch of animals. This was bound to happen. You know, they're not just going to hang out in the areas that you think are just, you know, oh, they're riddled with crime. They're going to expand, you know, especially these little jackals that want to run around and stuff like this. And no, this isn't precision policing. You don't. Okay. So Marlon was mentioning something too, Marlon Bethel in the chat, that we have 90s level staffing in the New York City Police Department. You just need to keep the head count where it's at. But if you don't administer personnel where it belongs, then this is what's going to happen. Because you can't have personnel. Look at this. This is outside someone's house. Look how many people are out there. You don't need. You don't have enough cops to try to stop. You need to call a level 1 and have, you know, SRG and all these other units responding and make these guys flee. You can't handle. You think 2 cops are going to stop that? Are you crazy? You don't even know. And one of them, it said that one of them threw basically like a Molotov cocktail into a vehicle. That's how it went on fire. So you're not stopping that with 2 cops. Hey, look, 92 Charlie. Sal, I hear from my son there's not enough cops on patrol to show up and make arrests. All these jobs are left open to the PDS, which is the Precinct Detective Squad. And it's what I'm trying to tell you, Jack, and I tell people is the NYPD personnel, the numbers, right? For people that retire, by the way, if 300 people retire a month, right? Or whatever it is, a week, that's a precinct, a whole precinct of people leaving. And what they do is they keep people on the books to tell you we have 35,000 because they don't retire right away, right? There's time they have to, you know, burn their time that they have on the books. The personnel is anywhere between 25 or 28,000, the true personnel number. And you might say, oh, that's little, too little. But again, as far as police agency goes in the world, the NYPD has the biggest staff. They're the most staffed law enforcement agency in the world. So their problem, though, is you don't have all those boots on the ground. You have plenty of boots in One Police Plaza and this little scam unit and this little scam unit and that little scam thing. Oh, and there's 8 or 10 of them in the precinct hanging around. Like, I'll give you one. What the hell's a property clerk? That used to be a civilian position, may I add. And they took it away, and now they made a cop, the property guy. That one cop could be on patrol. You understand how this always goes back to in a circle. So, no, I would disagree with Marlon because he says we don't have. I say fill in the same spots. You lose 300, you got to get 300 cops. So you keep that the same. And then you have to hire more civilians because the 2 admin females that are working with the lieutenant is a creep in the admin office. No, you don't need that. You need a civilian. Leave the cops alone. They have to go out in the street. This has been going on for a long time, folks. This is like decades old problem, but it's starting to rear its ugly head because now it's coming to all the neighborhoods, including, you know, maybe the ones that cops live in or that, you know, hardworking people live in. It's not just going to be the usual suspects in the Bronx or, you know, in Bedford-Stuyvesant and the 7-5. Now it's going to the precincts that were, wait a minute, we live in a nice area. We should. When does this happen? Well, your numbers, personnel-wise, and how you handle the police department, soccer mom, that's showing, right? That's what's showing here.
And I talked about the escalation of quality of life, small misdemeanors turning into full-fledged felonies the way they did in this instance. Another danger and kind of the trickle-down effect is all of the bad guys who are looking to commit crimes or cause mayhem in the street. They're going to see this, and it's going to be almost like an open invitation to start going around to other wealthy neighborhoods too. If they're not in Queens, now they're going to be in Manhattan Beach in Brooklyn or Riverdale in the Bronx, or other kind of isolated areas that are in the outer boroughs, not necessarily close to public transit or any of the police precincts, where they feel like they can cause harm without having to face the consequences of their behavior. So this is bad news, not just for the residents of Queens who now no longer feel safe in their expensive, safe neighborhood, but also residents of other neighborhoods. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of the consequences of Mamdani, because we don't really know what Mamdani's administration is going to look like. And by all indications, it's going to be more of the same, with Jessica Tisch staying on as the police commissioner. So you don't really want to jump the gun. But the bottom line is they need to be a lot more aggressive when policing situations that get out of hand, and safe neighborhoods that are being targeted right now disproportionately so.
Samara Cohen mentioned something. She said, Sal, your property guy is 20 plus years. If you put him on patrol permanently, he's going to retire. Actually, Samara, that is not the case. You will find property clerks in the precinct that have less than 20 years on. And all right, you have 20 years on and you don't want to be on the street, then maybe you should retire, because this job was never guaranteed to be an administrative role. This, cops are always hands-on. You shouldn't be doing administrative work. The only time I did administrative work was at the very end. Why? Because I had a few injuries. I had to deal with all this nonsense, and that's when I was basically inside, and then I ended up with the termination, all that nonsense. But I was full duty the entire time. I wasn't even full duty then. I was just I was inside because I was limited. But that was at the last 2 months or something, last month. But I was always out in the street because I never believed in being inside for anything. You shouldn't be inside for anything. All those roles can be filled by a civilian. That's the whole purpose. The 124 room, which is like, all the civilians supposed to be working in there. All civilians should be there. You need a TS operator, should be a civilian. Why is it a full duty cop? Why is a cop inside doing that? You'll find that a lot in the precincts, and those are the extra vehicles that you need to go out and do that work. And now, that's why you're stuck with that incident that occurred. Even if you have enough, like a 1 or 2 cars showing 4 cops, you're not stopping 20 animals like that running around burning things. You're gonna need a plethora of cops, and you might have that if you're fully staffed with cops in the street. Because ideally, you would want 5, 6 cars out there, so that's 12 cops plus the sergeant plus the lieutenant. So that's an extra 2 cops. You have 14 cops. You show up to a big thing like that. But now with 2 cops, you're going nowhere. And if I was, I'm not getting out of the car for that with 2 cops there. How am I gonna stop those people from creating the chaos that they were? Let's be honest.
I mean, this is also really just a sad social commentary on the state of New York City right now, because generally speaking, wealthy neighborhoods where there's $1 million homes, there's private security, there's the police precinct, and the police are very generally aggressive about clamping down on crime because they don't want the negative publicity that comes with crime sprouting up in safe neighborhoods, all the prominent people living there that are going to speak out about it, the whole 9 yards. But now crime in wealthy neighborhoods is being handled exactly the same as crime in the South Bronx or East New York or parts of Queens, dangerous parts on the North Shore of Staten Island. And it's like, are there any really extra safe neighborhoods in New York City anymore? Yes, the populated areas of lower and upper Manhattan seem to be a little bit safer, although apparently there was a stabbing in Times Square as well. So I don't want to jump the gun on saying that, but the areas where there's generally a larger population density still do seem to be safer. But then again, it's only a matter of time. Now that the robbers and the bad guys know that they're going to be able to get away with a lot more, they're going to start carrying out crimes in safer and safer and safer neighborhoods.
Yeah. Ron Layson said it here. He said those incidents need a coordinated response. It is actually a difficult and dangerous operation to try to address. We did operations in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, where we could box them in. See, he actually ran an entire precinct. With those people you have in there, and there's so many of them, you can't have 1 car respond. 2 cops aren't going to handle it. What he's talking about boxing them in is you would show up from different angles, but you need enough cars so that you would, block in those people. But again, they can start running. So you're never going to 100% get this down. The problem is you got to get them before they show up. But again, you basically have to try to box them in, but it's going to be very hard even to do that. And you don't have enough personnel anymore, to do this. I remember back when I was in Coney Island in a 6-0, we had about 14 cars on a given night, right? So with 14 cars, we had an incident like this. They would have people. There was a AutoZone or something on, I think it was Stillwell or Cropsey Avenue. Avenue. They would go in there and they would do the same thing they're doing. But what they do is they were inside. It was completely gated with one way out. So that was pretty simple. Everybody boxed in that exit, and now nobody's going anywhere unless you're going to completely destroy your car and jump off a fence and break it. It would be like chaos. And that's how we would stop that. Because once you grab these guys, you write summonses, arrests, wherever it is, it's over. They're not going to come back because they know you're going to be waiting for them. Because they only had one way in and out, so you could box them in, which is exactly what Ron Layson is saying. So Ron is correct, by the way. He's the co-host of the Executive Perspective. So if you do this, you're right. You could box them in. But that area, you're going to need a plethora of cops. You might need you do need what's called SRG and all those people. It's like a level 1 because you need a huge response to try to trap all those people in before they leave. But again, they're running on foot. I mean, the expressway is right there. The guy jumped on the highway and he was gone. So how are you going to catch these people? And then you're right. There was an incident in Times Square. There was a stabbing in Times, but crime is down. It's not a stabbing. It's just an assault 3. Don't worry about it. Soccer Mom's doing a great job. And, all the numbers are down. Eric Adams doing a great job. Mamdani's inheriting such a wonderful city. And that's what they're going to tell you. That's Baby Lou said the same. You can't chase them either. You can't chase them either. You can't do a car pursuit. Or do you want to end up like the Cowboys that a certain chief, disgraced chief who's limping around. He's got a bad ankle these days. He would tell you, hey, go chase that car down. And the minute you're in trouble, what did a patrol guy tell you to do? So that would be you. And there's plenty of you that are probably hurt right now with that. And Ron says it here. Ron Layson said it again. You take their cars, that hurts them the most. They have tens of thousands of dollars in mods on those cars. Yeah, you voucher the vehicles. So you could confiscate the cars if they run away, right? That'll cost them because, whoever owns the car's got to answer for that. But as far as, what you're really looking to do, it's unfeasible. There's just way too many people and way too many. Like you just need too many cops to try to stop this. So and Ron Layson's right again. You could put the car for forfeiture. So their car gets basically you're seizing it essentially for forfeiture. So you could hurt them in that way, but you got to get to them. And again, there's a lot of action. It's gonna be a lot. There's gonna be a lot of work to try to get that.
So the one consistency between the stabbing in Times Square, the issue that took place in Malta this weekend, and every other crime that I saw on the subway that also happened over the past week is they're violent crimes. If you're a citizen walking around New York City right now, you don't feel safe, and making things a whole lot scarier, you're not allowed to carry a gun. There's consequences if you have to pull out a taser when you feel in danger. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're in a very liberal city with strict limitations on what you can and cannot do, yet there's violent crime taking place. There's a saying in the police department, right? I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6 or something like that, right? And I think maybe I got it flipped around. But either way, I mean, you need to keep yourself safe, and you can't be thinking about the consequences of your actions when you're down in the subway or walking around a neighborhood where there's gangs all over the place playing loud music and grilling the crap out of everyone who walks by. You need to protect yourself, and by that line of thought, you have to hope that the city council uses this experience as a wake-up call, especially those very liberal members of the council who are very anti-weaponry of any sort, even when it comes to self-protection.
Yeah, again, this is going to be remembered, folks. I mean, this is just the way the city is crumbling. But it's like they want this done a certain way. Now you're going to have another mayor in, and it might be a different direction, and city council as well. So this is just a microcosm of the problem. It's just now you're starting to see because the mayor's nowhere to be found right now. So everybody thinks it's vacation time, and there was no answer to this weekend. It basically what I'm telling you is how this all went down. this whole incident went down. This is one of many incidents. This happens all the time. But Vicky is going to do her best to keep a foot on their neck with this. But we essentially have shown you, as a whole network, all of us together, that the crime stats are not only manipulated, they admitted it. They just admitted it to you right in your face, saying it was just a criminal mischief. And, we didn't see the videos right away. So the people that went to the hospital, there wasn't a cop that went over there, because there has to be one that goes to the hospital with the victim to take their story and write the ADA report and everything else. So it's all a lie, like everything else, like the two liars you have in the room right now that are that's what they do, this guy is teaching at a university. That's a scary thought. That's why your children are being indoctrinated, because you have maniacs like this, and his underling, this other jerk, this other guy in the room, that's why you have all these problems. But so I think we covered a lot about this. The next thing I wanted, it kind of correlates with this, was the whole Trump-Mamdani meeting, right? Did that not go down the way I said to everybody?
Yeah, let's before we get into that, because I really want to break that down, let's hear from Free Spoke first.
Yes. I know you surf the internet and you search for things on the search engine and you don't get what you're looking for. Well, I have a solution for you, and that's Free Spoke. Free Spoke is a search engine that does everything without all the restrictions and all the censorship, and there's no porn ads. Free Spoke is about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels media bias, no intrusions or data leaks. No porn ads, like I said, unlimited, unbiased AI. Also, deep dive podcasting. You can look it up. Go to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Download the app. You could also use the same link to get 35% off the premium subscription, which would be well worth it. Try it out. freespoke.app.link/Greco. Yeah, folks, Greco 35, get you 35% discount on this subscription. And like I said, on Free Spoke, a lot of times, a lot of things pop up on there that they're not even out on the news yet. Or they're probably a minute or two ahead, or a few minutes ahead of like national news. So there's a lot of things that pop up there. Also, check out myfreedomcart.com/Sal Greco Show. And you could also get, products that, you use at your home right now. That, you could get something that's on the level, if not better, than the products you use. And you don't have to get out of your car. You got two kids that are running around. You got to go chase them around in Publix or wherever you shop. And you can just shop from your home, and it gets delivered to you, and you save money. So check out myfreedomcart.com/Sal Greco Show. And so I did, this thing was important because the Mamdani meeting, I mean, look, what can I say? Listen, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. Like I've heard this 5D chess, 4D chess, all this nonsense. Somebody mentioned to me on X, they called me a Q, whatever. Q. Let me tell you something. I'm going to make it a WWE reference. The whole Q movement was actually started in 1987-88 when, at the time, Jim Hellwig, also known as the Ultimate Warrior, ran to the ring and would speak about the space gods and that the heavens open up and that I'm the Ultimate Warrior, and he's shaking the ropes, and that's what Q is, right? Isn't that the leader of Q was Jim Hellwig, otherwise known as the Ultimate Warrior. So all of this stuff is WWE. You just people are just in denial. They're really in denial. They're in total denial over what's going on. A lot of people, you all got played. It was a 3-card Mamdani. They make no bones about it. WABC Radio to this day is still screaming about Curtis Sliwa. They had Andrew Cuomo on yesterday, right? Sid Rosenberg is fighting with Viral News Online. Like you guys are just, you all got played. 7% for Curtis Sliwa. And I heard Andrew Cuomo here with David Patterson. David Patterson, as you know, signed the Tier 3 bill. He can't see, but maybe he also can't hear these days, because 7%. Why don't you talk about your boy Trump endorsing Andrew Cuomo? because you don't get 7% if the deity of all deities doesn't come in and say, you got to vote for Andrew Cuomo. By the way, Malba also voted for Andrew Cuomo. So, that whole area that had the incident, all Andrew Cuomo voters, because the deity told you so. The deity that now is, even that the aesthetics of that look of Trump looking up to Mamdani says it all. It says it all. 4D chess, 5D chess. The guy wants his casino. He wants his casino and he wants his name back on the woman ring. You fail to realize who this guy, what really makes the man Donald Trump move.
I mean, just look at this admiration mutually going on between both sides, Trump and Mamdani here. Mamdani is giving him the cute little grin like, yeah, we're doing business together. We had a great 30-minute meeting, but we're going to pretend we're enemies for a little bit longer just so our respective faces still respect us, right? Like, and then Trump's giving him a look back like, yeah, you got me with my casino, right? Like, I'm going to hook you up with some additional funding in New York City. I'm going to start supporting you now, and things are going to be good. It's kumbaya. But notice how, like, 72 hours earlier, Mamdani was saying, oh, he's a bad person. He's a communist. He's a horrible leader. Trump was calling him a communist. They were, like, angrily revving up the respective bases, trying to get each other mad at each other so they could get them to support one another. And then all of a sudden, it's kumbaya, hanging out like they've been best friends, talking about these things all along behind closed doors for 6 months, which they probably have.
Well, it's also, you should know that in the Trump portfolio, real estate-wise in New York City, he owns about $2.1 billion worth of real estate. So you can't have him try to, freeze rents. This would hurt the city of, yes, it hurt Trump. It hurts John Katzimatidis. It hurts Witkoff. It hurts a lot of people. So there you go. Oh, the art of the deal, right? I know. I keep hearing that one too. The art, guys. Listen, when do you realize you're a spectator in the show? You know how like wrestling was on last night. It was great. Brock Lesnar, he came out, he fell down. I mean, it was like you saw 5 legends in the ring: the Usos, CM Punk, who's the champ, Cody Rhodes, who's the other champ, and Roman Reigns fighting Paul Heyman's guys, Logan Paul and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar. But you're watching this, and then you guys, I don't know, the kids may not know, it's all for fun, because when they get back in the locker room, they're all hugging each other. I mean, they've shown you the clips, so you can't be serious falling for this, because that's what just happened the other day with Trump and Mamdani. He literally called him a fascist, and some reporter asked him that, and he's tapping him saying, go ahead, you could call and tell me. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. So why don't you show them what I posted? Because this thing got over a million views on there, and on X. There was a video of it, and I had posted something about.
Yeah, let me get that up. But in the meantime, first, let's just ask ourselves the question: does this sound like someone who was just calling Mamdani a communist, or does this sound like a political ally?
Yeah,
I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually, and some very liberal people. He won't surprise them because they already like him. I feel very confident that he can do a very good job.
It's 4D chess. What are you talking about? 4D chess.
4D chess, and it's like, this is the saddest part of the situation. I'm going to get that post up momentarily here, but this is really the saddest part of all of this. The respective constituency bases were not okay with the two sides forming a mutually beneficial partnership, so they each framed it as being highly beneficial for one side or the other. Republicans were saying that Trump owned Mamdani and that Mamdani is going to be bending a knee to him. And then the left was saying that Mamdani controlled Trump. Mamdani has dangerous material, which he's hanging over Trump's head. Like, it's not okay that the world is full of people who are actually putting their differences aside for the betterment of the group at hand and the residents of New York City. No, they have to be still conflicting and arguing with each other, which goes to show that there's more people hoping that the world crashes, burns, and decapitates itself than hoping that it actually allows good things to happen. I mean, look at Ina Vernikov the day before the two met. Tomorrow, real Donald Trump will school Zoran Mamdani. The public should be able to watch. And this is where I'm allowed to spike the football in the end zone a little bit because I called it. Everyone here on the Finest Unfiltered, to our credit, said this is one big WWE spectacle where we're sitting on the outside buying $15 PBRs like the ones at Mamdani's election rally, where we're waiting in long lines for the bathroom and we're all yelling at the people in the ring and all that stuff. And I said, another horrible take. Mamdani and Trump will wind up becoming friends given that they both need one another to succeed. All the hoopla nonsense was performative WWE level theatrics. Streaming the conference would just show the public the truth. Yeah, remember originally they weren't going to let TV cameras in because they needed the whole thing to be private. Then Mamdani and Trump decided to call an audible and have a 30-minute meeting where they ironed out everything beforehand, and then the media can come in. It's funny how the media was like antagonizing them about every little thing, and then they're saying, yeah, we've already discussed how we're going to handle ICE. We've agreed to our terms. We've already discussed how we're going to handle big interest companies in real estate. Yeah, everything's okay. We got it under control. Like that's going to show they're not revealing anything that they actually spoke.
But just can we remember what had happened? For months, you heard that he called them a communist, a Marxist. You have a certain radio host that still calls him a jihadist, all this stuff. They wanted you to do this all the time. And then when the curtain was unveiled, everyone comes down to the ring. Everybody's friends. Wait, oh, no, you can call me a fascist. Look. They need each other to do their little deals, and you don't matter. You're a peasant. You're just a peasant. You want in on the meal, on the meeting and stuff. You better have a lot of a suitcase full of money to talk to either one of them. Like this is how the world works, and people are asleep, and you're too busy fighting each other to realize. Again, you're like fighting each other in the crowd. Meanwhile, the show's going on in the ring. It's just a show. It's just a show. Yeah, this is what's important to write this because I posted this thing was going all over the place. I said, I lost my job in the NYPD because I supported Trump, who then supported the guy who terminated me for that, Eric Adams. You didn't care. Laughed at my expense, but jokes on all of you. Like I stated for months, welcome to politics, a.k.a. the WWE, where you were all gullible spectators. So let's play what happened because he said a lot in this.
You're a billionaire. You have a different address nowadays than you used to. Like you used to call New York City home. Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would, especially after the meeting. We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. He may have different views, but in many ways, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on, tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought. And when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that, and just turned out to be a statistical truth. But no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lone Silence has just said, yeah, of course you would feel comfortable when you have world-class protection at your side. The average New Yorker has nothing. Another stupid-ass comment from Trump. Look. Like I told you, this whole thing was a setup from the beginning. It was a three-card Mamdani. I'm going to go as far back as when you started hearing Eric Adams begging to get into the Trump camp, right? Because why? Eric Adams could not get reelected. He was going to go to jail. My case would have been over. A lot of other cases would have been over. You would have had Jumaane Williams. And with Jumaane Williams as mayor, forget about the city of yes. All the real estate guys may not get what they want because that guy is like, I don't know. He's not all there, so he's not going to listen to certain people. And he only had a short time period till November or December to be the mayor. Well, you would have had a conservative mayor in New York City had Jumaane Williams taken over for Eric Adams. But instead, they all panicked. We got to help Eric. Eric's going to help us. He's for sale. and you started to see the beginning of the three-car Mamdani, because Mamdani was a 1% or less guy up until Eric was, under fire, and you didn't know if he was going to go to trial or not. And then Cuomo says, I'm going to run for mayor, which that's hysterical. And boom, this guy pops out of nowhere, and they start pressing him. So the three-car Mamdani, which is, it was always going to be someone like Mamdani. It was always the same agenda, same everything. You all got suckered. And the guy that was playing along with it is the president, because he's got property and friends in New York City. It's like, I don't know how else to tell you guys this. It's in your face. And more than likely, next year at this time, the Republicans will be licking their wounds because they won't have the majority anymore. But they've also not helped things along by, getting trounced in elections, because they're not passing anything in Congress. Everything is like the same thing as Trump's first presidency. First 2 years, Republicans in charge, don't do anything. Then the Democrats take over. Trump becomes like a lame duck, and then that's how Joe Biden got elected. The Republicans did nothing, and they did the same thing again in this term. They're doing exactly the same thing. So before you go and blame and look at yourselves in the mirror if you're a Republican, and you voted for Andrew Cuomo if you're in New York City, because this guy who was always, he's the president. He has you think he's really he's thinking about overall himself, money, his family. There's a life after the presidency. He only has 3 years left as a president, right? So he's got an angle for himself. So of course he was going to make deals with Mamdani and all these people who, by the way, Elise Stefanik, you just joined the list. You have absolutely no chance to win as governor. You should just leave now. You leave the race. You cannot win, because they'll be playing that video in a loop for Democrats over and over again. So Trump wants to go live in New York City on the Mamdani again. I didn't know. It's so great. You could have your neighborhood disrupted in Malba. You could be stabbed in Times Square. This is under Eric Adams, and it'll continue right now because he kept the police commissioner who's got the same policy. So you have to assume that it's going to be the same thing, because he's not doing anything to change anything. I mean, I just saw the list. You can see this list by Mamdani, who is putting in all these people on these 17 committees. And it's a who's who of, retreads, and guys like Rodney Harrison are on there. So it's like I told you, Rodney Harrison was going to end up there somehow. This is what you're going to get. You were going to get the same status quo no matter who you voted for if it wasn't Curtis Lewa. That's the bottom line. And now you're seeing it in the open. But 5D chess, Q's coming. I don't know. Ultimate Warrior is no longer living, because I would have loved to see him run in there and shake the desk and do the whole thing, because that's what this is. It's entertainment. It's entertainment. You guys are being entertained, but you actually think it's real. Meanwhile, people can't pay their bills. Gas is through the roof. It's groceries are sky high.
We're funding foreign wars. Yeah.
You're funding foreign wars. Apparently you want, how many is it? 50,000, you want all the Chinese students, like 500,000 of them here. You also want the 50-year mortgages. Like, what the hell is that about?
It's scary to me how gullible the general public is, and how manipulative our politicians and the news media is. Right before the election, Trump is saying he's a communist. I can't imagine anything good ever happening to New York. Mamdani saying Trump's the worst president. I'm going to stand up to him. I don't care if there's a civil war. There's going to be a bloodbath. I'm not stopping until I get what I want. I'm going to stand up to him even if it means me getting arrested. And then the election ends, and it's like, yeah, we had a great meeting. I was pleasantly surprised. I would love to live in New York. I think the city is great. Mamdani is saying, oh, I'm putting the interests of myself aside because I care so much about New Yorkers, and I'm not worrying about anything or anyone else anymore. Hello, do you guys think we're stupid? Like, we didn't forget the fake nonsensical beef that you guys had just a week ago, and now we're supposed to act like nothing happened. We're like a couple that just had a toxic argument. We need to kiss, make up, and move on with our lives. Pretending that you all weren't making backroom deals that are highly personal beneficial to yourselves and no one else, yourselves and maybe your family members, inner circle, whatever it may be, but definitely not the everyday person who's going to be facing increased food costs at the supermarket, higher rent prices, right? Because we're talking about these real estate deals and building affordable housing. Yeah, that's going to inhibit your ability to freeze the rent in New York City because that's part of the way that this works, right? So congratulations. You openly admitted in less than 2 weeks worth of time that none of the policy proposals you campaigned on as a candidate are viable, that you're now friends with Bill Ackman and Donald Trump, probably the two biggest antagonists of your entire campaign. And as such, there needs to be extreme skepticism about the credibility of these individuals and how we gather information going forward, because clearly this was all fake.
Yep. And there's more to this too, because during this meeting, the president chimes in on the soccer mom, and you could kind of see why the soccer mom's going to remain. I don't know if you can get that video up.
Yeah, I'll get it up momentarily here.
Yeah, there's a discussion about the soccer mom because, you know, why is the soccer mom remaining as a police commissioner when you just saw what just occurred in Queens? I mean, that's just a microcosm of things. You know, crime is not down, corruption is flourishing. You know, the list could go on and on. There's no significant achievement underneath Jessica Tisch other than the New York Post, who's throwing like, does she own the New York Post? I don't know. But here is Trump talking about Jessica Tisch. You got to hear this.
He just retained a great police commissioner, I believe, right?
Yes, we did. Commissioner Tisch.
If the newspapers are correct.
That one they're correct about.
He retained, I think, somebody that is she's a good friend of some of the people in my family, Ivanka, and they say she's really good, really competent. And he just retained her, so that's a good sign. And he just
yeah. So Ivanka Trump, because she's friends with Ivanka Trump, who's also friends with Chelsea Clinton, man, because she's friends with her, makes her a great police commissioner. Also, she's a Harvard grad with Jared Kushner, her husband. So did you understand what's really going on here or not yet? I mean, this is the World Wrestling Entertainment. I've been telling you this. You all got gaslit. You're all fighting each other, and they're laughing at you. Even the deity. Listen, I told you, when he's right, you're going to hear me praise him. When he does things like what just happened on the other day, which was a charade, you know, you're going to hear it. And then there's other things he's doing. Like I said, 50-year mortgages and 15-year car loans. If that isn't socialism, I don't know what that is. Who did he come up with that one? I don't know, but that
is textbook socialism, Sal. Because if we're going to be having all the big corporations like BlackRock buy up the houses, the government technically is seizing means of production away from the American people, handing it to private corporations, and now we're paying them a large sum of money that exceeds the original value of the property that we just bought. So that is textbook socialism for anyone at home who keeps using that word to fearmonger the public.
Yeah, it's like the Lone Silencer says, you notice you see less and less of Don Jr., like he wants nothing to do with this BS. I never trusted Ivanka, Jared Kushner, etc. Look, when you saw Ivanka, you know, and she's not even around. I don't know why. She likes Jessica Tisch, therefore that makes her great. Are you like who? I don't know. And you know, 92 Charlie, banker friends getting richer. So there is one other video I have, and it's pretty important because it's the guy that, you know, Andrew Cuomo and David Patterson were much maligning yesterday when they should malign themselves. They both were governors of the state, by the way. Here's Curtis Sliwa talking about this meeting in the White House, and you should listen up because it's very important what he says. So
thank you for being here. What was your reaction to that meeting?
Well, see, I'm the street guy, and as you know, Donald Trump did not support me to become the next mayor, and you're going to find out why, because we just all got played for 8 months. Everyone in the world, everyone in the country, everyone in New York City got played by these two thespians, these actors. Because remember, 8 months ago, we thought it was Godzilla versus King Kong. There was Zoran Mandami calling Donald Trump a fascist. He's not. And then Donald Trump calling Zoran Mandami a communist. He's not. And then, as you mentioned, just recently, the president said, I'm going to withhold $7 billion of badly needed federal funding for New York City if you elect Zoran Mamdani. And then Zoran Mamdani, on the night of his victory, turns and looks into the television and says, Donald Trump, if you're listening, turn up the volume. So they're like antagonizing their followers. And then all of a sudden today, we're expected to believe kumbaya. Everything is fine. Everything moves normally. No. I don't get played. I feel that I, like the American people, were turned into suckers to all of a sudden start adversarial.
Yeah, he's not he is not only spot on, he hit the nail on the head. And he was running a hard campaign, but we were telling you this all along. I try to warn you. You could see little by little the Epstein thing is a joke. It's not that Trump's involved personally. It's the way his people handled it. It's one thing after the other. You could run things like you're on the Celebrity Apprentice, but that's what got him in trouble 8 years ago, and it's happening again now. And it's unfortunate. A lot of people expect it differently, but again, you also have to learn that the power of government is really through the states. Federal government has a say, but they don't control every state. So it's like, what can I say? You have the power as the people, and you still want to believe that, you're looking for the savior and whatever. And really, Curtis was right. We were right. It's very unfortunate, but I could have told you this was going to go the way it did. And now it's, you got to live with it. And now if you're a resident of New York City, don't worry. It's going to be business as usual. So you're still going to get the stabbings and the cars. That's all coming. It's nothing you can do about it. But like I said, it's the real estate guys are going to get richer. The city of Yes is taking over. You would hope Mamdani doesn't bring in corrupt guys, but I saw his list. I don't know if you have the list of people he's going to have in his this advisory thing. Like I said, Ronnie Harrison's there. This cop hater guy is there. I forgot his name. There's a big cop hater on this group. I'm like, well, look, you knew this was going to happen, and I don't know what to tell you.
So two major takeaways from that video from Sliwa and the subsequent compliment of Trump about Jessica Tisch. Mamdani retained Jessica Tisch supposedly to enact his very radical Democratic agenda, yet Trump is complimenting her after they had a discussion about what they're going to be doing with ICE. So the community safety team that costs $1 billion, probably not happening, right? Because now we have a more right-leaning police commissioner who associates with the Conservative Party and has a technocratic agenda where she's trying to install surveillance cameras and all of this technological stuff that's being propagated by Palantir and big corporations all over the city. That's part of the agenda here. But more importantly, what differentiates Trump's agenda and his priorities out of operations now from his previous term is there's not going to be a third term for Donald Trump. So he's just trying to save face and benefit himself during this presidency more so than he cares about the Republican Party. Last time he was a little bit more careful in terms of forming allegiances and allies on the other side of the aisle. But this time around, it's like sacrificing everyone from his own party, regardless of the cost, right? Like if he has to become friends with Mamdani to get his business deals done in New York, he's going to become friends with Mamdani. If he has to cozy up to other Democrats, so be it. And it's coming at the cost of distancing himself from Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, some of the people who are essentially the backbone of the Republican Party, which is why there's belief that they're going to lose the congressional midterms in 2026 and ultimately the presidential election in 2028. Because if the Republican Party is so divided in the same way that the Democratic Party was divided after Biden and didn't know who to vote for, and a lot of them voted for Trump instead of Kamala, how is the party ever going to sustain a very good and competent future? That's the warning that a lot of people from the MAGA world are putting out.
Yeah,
right?
Trump was going to withhold the funds because if Mamdani got elected, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. You guys got, I don't know what to say. Your head should be spinning going, what just happened? Oh, that's right. Finance Unfiltered told us. And we kept believing other people and thinking, oh, but no, but now they're right. So now you're all here going, what else do you guys know? You just, and in the way we know this is like, I should be a booker in the World Wrestling Entertainment because I could book everything. I know what's about to happen from my knowledge of wrestling. I loved wrestling since I was in diapers. I was a Hulkamaniac running around the house with a red shirt. Like wrestling, Ms. McMahon's world is what politics has become. It's so easy to predict because you just go off of what you know from wrestling, and that's what's happening. And you guys just, whether you like wrestling or not, if you follow it, you'll say, "Oh my God, it is exactly that. It's exactly that." And Trump comes from that world also. He hosted WrestleMania 4 and 5. He was there for WrestleMania 7. I mean, Hulk Hogan endorsed the guy. All of these things should have pointed to. He loves UFC. What does that tell you? Like, I don't know. I like people just want to ignore things. You know, Ron Layson says here, because you're right, and I know the other guy's name is Alex Vitale. All right. So he said, don't forget two of the biggest shitbirds from Violence Interrupted programs, Kay Bain and Erica Ford. These are people that are in this new committee for Mamdani. You could break down all the names, right? Here they are. Erica Ford. There it is. Kay Bain, community capacity. This is the committee for community safety. He's got a different committee, and there's tons of people in it. And another one also is Rodney Harrison. He's in one of these groups also. And you'll see some of the same names. You might go, wait a minute. But look, to the victor go to spoils. It's like, you know, the guy warned you this is going to happen, and that's what's happening, you know. And there he is, Rodney Harrison. That's his name. He's one of these committees. You know, it is what it is. It's what are you going to do? Like we told you, you know. And there's one from Vital City. Vital City has they have a news outlet as well. You know,
great comment here by Special Hagen. Mamdani hasn't remained loyal to the DSA either. Instead of supporting Chiose, who is one of his earliest supporters. Remember, Chiose was going to challenge Hakeem Jeffries for District 8 in the U.S. House of Representatives, but opted not to after that campaign kind of got shot down. He has discouraged him from running against Hakeem Jeffries. Let me just say something to all the people out there. Socialism, democratic socialists, like these are all phrases and words that don't really have a substantive meaning. Like we're just saying socialism, this person, Mamdani, when he was speaking with Trump, he's like, the biggest difference between us is I'm a democratic socialist. Well, isn't socialism giving properties to private corporations and then having people take out 50-year mortgages? It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a worshiper of Barney, a worshiper of the Teletubbies. Like it's all the same political legislative belief. They have the same values. They're the same person. They're very politically aligned. And really, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Whatever they say for you peasants, so you support them and go vote for them come election day, means absolutely nothing when it comes to enacting all of these policies.
Yeah, you know, Marlena Fina here said, I keep saying on Truth Social, I am not impressed by Trump's second term. Gas prices are too high. Food, young people can't buy homes. Criminals are taking over and woke judges are letting them loose. You know, I was going to say something too, because I saw it in the chat. So there's two things I want to say before we sign off. The first one was the Letitia James dismissal and James Comey dismissal. So now, just so you understand, this judge, I don't know if you could pull up any kind of headline with it, but the judge that let this off, it was not dismissed off the merits of the case. Unlike, same thing like they were trying to do with Eric Adams, but it was dismissed without prejudice, meaning it could be brought back. What they're saying is the endowment clause, meaning Lindsay Halligan's appointment was unlawful. So any other appointed prosecutor can bring this case. It was dismissed without prejudice, which means they could bring this case back. Now, I don't know if the statute of limitations, though, have run out on the Comey case. But as far as Tish James' case go, look, we were on this. We had Joe Gilbert on. I had Sam Antar on. He broke this all down here. And then you started seeing this pick up, and it's true. So the case has merit. It's just they need to get rid of Lindsay Halligan off the case, and they can bring it back, and they're going to appeal it. I just don't know how far this goes. I was always one. Remember what I kept telling you with Letitia James is she committed these crimes, but mortgage fraud is a lot of people commit this. It's usually, it's a crime, but it's usually an add-on. The real crimes people refuse to look into is her cover-ups of all kinds of things in New York State as the attorney general and also involved in federal cases. We also cannot forget about Con Sofrito, where there was the human trafficking going on there. And she's smiling and dancing, and she's hanging out with the mob associate who she was hanging out with again in Somos. So undoubtedly, and there he is. This is another case that we're going to get to in 2 seconds about Anthony Miranda, a.k.a., Woody. So the case of Letitia James should be sprawling. She also, Mark Fishman, who we had on this show, did 45 days or whatever in jail. He might still be there. She got involved in his case. It was ridiculous how this woman is, just mortgage fraud. No, there's a lot more there. But how far are you willing to go? And I don't think the FBI, especially on the Kash Patel, who campaigned that he wanted this job and all this stuff, yeah, that was all nonsense. He's just as bad as the last guy. It's just nothing ever ends. So really, you almost should have a guy run for office, has to sign a contract. And if he violates anything he says that he's not going to do, you could put him in jail or you fire him. I don't know. That's where you really should be we going on. But right there, you say, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct, Pam Bondi said. But again, I think there's a lot more than just the mortgage fraud, but they don't have the appetite for it. That's what it seems to me. They rather just let, all the criminality go. They don't care about trafficking. They don't care about any of that stuff. It's why bother? That's how I see it. So this is going to be a long, enduring process. I don't know where it goes with James Comey because, again, I think that James Comey's case has a time limit on it, because it might be, statute of limitations. But James's case hopefully comes back around. But again, he's only got 3 years. Can you prosecute this case in 3 years? I don't know. That's going to be the next question. And of course, you do have her on other things that you refuse to look at. And that's the FBI and the DOJ. And I don't think they're serious about any of this. This is all, I think this is all political theater. That's what I really think. I feel terrible. Sam Anto worked very hard on this. Joe Gilbert did too. But you have 3 years to bring this case, prosecute this woman, get a guilty conviction, and put her in jail. Because once Trump's out of there, everything changes again. So I don't know. Again, there's more than mortgage fraud on this. But again, if you're going to prosecute these cases, you got to do it the right way too. You can't leave any loopholes. So unfortunately, this judge took this decision. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
And that's Sam Antar, the registered Democrat, too, by the way.
Yes.
Who uncovered and unearthed some very troubling revelations about an attorney general from his own political party. But the fact that they weren't able to prosecute James speaks to their high level of incompetence, because look at the mounting paper trail of evidence that she kept for such a long period of time. A house where she lied about the number of units, a house in Virginia that she listed as her primary residence when she lived in Brooklyn at the house I mentioned, where she said there were four units instead of 5, including the one that she lived in. At that house in Virginia where she was supposed to be living at, she had a relative who was filming OnlyFans videos and smoking blunts on Instagram Live. Like, how do you not possibly convict someone who is doing all of these things and is supposed to be the attorney general of an entire state, to the point where they're so prominent in the social scene that everyone is listening to what they're saying about the candidates and voting for Zohran Mamdani because Tish James is propping him up? So it's very disturbing that the Republican Department of Justice couldn't even prosecute a Democratic enemy who they had a mounting paper trail of evidence against. I mean, can they prosecute anyone at this point? We're a year into Donald Trump's presidency, and the FBI has dropped the ball on just about every single issue that has taken place between then and now, whether it be Tyler Robinson assassinating Charlie Kirk in Utah, prosecuting Letitia James, releasing the Epstein files. Like, how much deeper are we going to go in the next 3 years of his presidency before there's civil unrest and people are saying we need a Democrat in office? Obviously, that's the wrong line of thinking because there's potentially a lot of powerful Republican candidates in 2028, but still it's leading to anger toward the party as a whole because of what's transpired recently.
Yeah, I mean, Special Hagen said here it's consistent. The SDNY prosecutors headed by Damian Williams were also incompetent. They botched the Adams and Diddy cases too. Yeah, I saw the video. P. Diddy. How are they getting video of this guy in a jail cell? But like, you see him walking around. He's got like a white beard. His hair is white. I'm like, yo, I'm like, from a distance, you might mistake him. I think he's trying to look like Corey Pegues. You know, I'm like, what the hell is he doing, Sean Diddy Combs? Why are they taking video of this guy? Like, that's it. That's it right there from TMZ. What's with this guy? Like, why are they taking video of this guy? I don't know, but they did drop the ball with his prosecution too. That was another Trump DOJ. And listen, I think there's a lot of battles from within, but Trump appoints these people. You have to know who you're appointing. You keep surrounding yourself with buffoons, you're going to get buffoonery. And before you know it, it's over. You have to have the right people underneath you. You know, this guy, Todd Blanche, Boris Epstein, Emo Bove, you put these guys around you, dude, you should have known better. Now they've crushed you for a year. Todd Blanche is like investigating the Ed Martin and Bill Pulte over the Letitia James stuff. Like, what's going on there? That's a whole nother story for another time. I'm like, that's insane. But that's what's going on underneath them. But I think that I'm going to go for this one because Andre Jackson sent $9.99 to the Sal Greco Show. Shout out to you. He said, Sal, good morning. Let's talk Sheriff Miranda. LOL. He's got to go. So this is what I wanted to end everything with here because there's a picture of him. So on X, here he is with your favorite mob associate. I put this up. I said, did the Department of Investigation forget about New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda and his endless corruption? Miranda is now trying to butter up to Zohran Mamdani to keep his job. Would be a shame if everyone read these files about how he runs a New York City Sheriff's office. And this article that I have on there, and you have to click on this link because it's a special, it's not a real outlet, but somebody put this together. And it says a deep dive into allegations of nepotism, retaliation, and troubling internal practices. And it breaks down a bunch of things that you may or may not know about of Anthony Miranda. And it's a ton of stuff this guy was doing as a sheriff. And, high paying positions, the cronies, people that got disciplined, got promoted. People that shouldn't have been promoted got promoted. He disciplined other people if they went public, and there was the $100,000, whatever they found in his safe. All of that stuff. Yet this guy went to Somos with the esteemed mob associate there, Jimmy Rodriguez, the self-admitted criminal, and they were trying to cozy up to keep his job. So this is the kind of clowns that you have around. Hey, look, here's something, right? This is one of the rapid rise of Francesca Rosa. A major point of contention involves Francesca Rosa, who reportedly advanced from deputy sergeant to lieutenant in just over 2 years, while still a probationary deputy sheriff. How does that even work in the sheriff's department? How do you get, he ran the sheriff's department like a mini, it also explained this, like a mini One Police Plaza. So he thinks that he's the Eric Adams of the sheriff. Like this guy, and remember, he ran with Eric Adams for years with those the other association he had, but he's really Woody from Toy Story. I mean, it's just I don't know about that. This guy's a piece of work.
In terms of the allegations with Francesca Rosa, who was a rapid riser in the sheriff's office, a small sheriff's office where it's very, very, very difficult to get promoted. She went from being a deputy in 2023, making $47,000 a year in base salary, 91 total, to then becoming a sergeant with a higher rank, and then a lieutenant. And look at not only the jump in terms of base pay, but also the overtime pay, because overtime has obviously been a very hot topic of conversation, not only with the NYPD, but also New York City as a whole, as they've blown through a multi-billion-dollar budget, right? She's making, $60,000 a year in overtime. And then the very next year, it jumps to $100,000
on probation.
Yeah, on probation. I might add. Just auditing and looking at the payroll for a second, something doesn't add up about this promotion. Mind you, this is only one page of a 10-page series of allegations, too.
It's so many, and Special Hagen has it. She pins this out beautifully. Has anyone quantified the amount of money in weed that he confiscated? Has it been corroborated by the shop owners? They are suing for, amongst others, being improperly served by Miranda's goons. Also, they said that what he was doing was illegal, but he destroyed evidence. So he was doing illegal raids. You can't just do a raid without a warrant. He didn't get permission from the court. Then you had Eric Adams destroying it with the machine, if you remember. I mean, this is a joke. This guy wants to keep his job as the sheriff. So stay tuned if that even happens. If that happens, that would be a travesty. I was really hoping at the very least Mamdani would not keep any Eric Adams lackeys, but he clearly is. There's plenty of them in his administration as we speak that you're seeing one by one. If he keeps this guy, like I said, it's just status quo as usual. This guy's still going to go on. You're going to be hearing about all this nonsense. And I don't know, is anything ever going to get done? Who knows? DOI's not doing anything. Look at this. The controversial promotion of Undersheriff Kenneth Matos. They're in the same window in which Rosa was promoted. Kenneth Matos was promoted twice within a single year. And Andre Jackson, 59, said Miranda just transferred 20-plus deputies because they caught blue flu when he ordered them to work on holidays. This guy's a tyrant. But again, he might keep that job. You got to really, I saw a whole page, like a ad taken out on him in the New York Post. It was hysterical, but
yeah, Miranda followed kind of what I would call the Kaz Daughtry career path, right? Because he was a career-long underachiever with the NYPD. And then because Eric Adams was the mayor, he was giving an assignment that he was wholly undeserving of.
Yeah.
Overseeing the entire sheriff's office, a very small sheriff's office, which is in charge of these very high-profile, tough seizures of smoke shops, of people who committed financial fraud of various matters. So, I mean, he was giving an incredibly prestigious position, and by all indications, it's been all about perception management and being cool on social media rather than doing real police work. And look at everything that's taken place behind the scenes between the shady promotions, going to Somos, allegations that they're stealing weed from people, which, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening because weed is legal in New York City and the smoke shops do have a lot of it. So the allegations about them maybe taking some of it for themselves to sell, family members, whatever it may be, could potentially have merit. These are not trustworthy people either. And it's another classic example of when you put the wrong person in the wrong position, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, and this is, how can I say, Hard Core said it best here. Mamdani is keeping a lot of Adams people, Crumb's crew 2.0. They are Teflon with Trump's blessing. Hopefully it doesn't keep Kaz Daughtry, That's all I have to say. Terrible.
Kaz doesn't seem like he's part of the crowd the same way.
I think so. I'm going to say this. So tonight on 10-4 Tavern, I see they're going to have on Ron Brooks. He's the California DOJ narco chief, 38-year law enforcement veteran, one of the country's leading voices on public safety, intelligence, and information sharing. He helped build one of America's most effective fusion centers by bringing NCHIDTA, I think it's HIDA, I think it's the correct word, and NCRIC together, uniting tech, intel, and real interagency cooperation long before it was the norm. So check that out tonight, 10-4 Tavern. That's what they're going to have. Chief Ron Brooks. I didn't see that. Well, I guess, yeah, Ron, that's Ron Brooks. That's the ad for it. And also tomorrow, check out the Finest Unfiltered in the morning. I think that'll be it for the Finest Unfiltered till next week also because, Thanksgiving, then there's Black Friday, which is a big holiday shopping day. Also, Executive Perspective tomorrow, 5:05. Ron Layson should be back with Rob. and you could watch that and see what everybody has to stay before Thanksgiving. So Special Hagen also said Miranda's also charged with harassing Adams' enemies within days of one of my blogs. His sheriff goons harassed me at my apartment building. That's incredible. And why is nobody investigating that? Like what happened? I know you guys want me to expose Juju. Let it listen. He's gonna. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I've given you enough. I've given you enough with this guy. This guy is you shouldn't make him more than what he is. He's a failed lieutenant who I understand he teaches at a certain university. All right, and he's written books. Well, a book. Maybe you should write a book on how he's so much smarter than you, but yet dumb at the same time, But with that being said, I will be here next week. There won't be any show Thursday. It's going to be Thanksgiving. There's going to be football. You're going to be enjoying all of that. So I'll be back on Tuesday. Hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving. Also enjoy the next day because that's the biggest shopping day of the year, apparently. And God knows what's going to happen in the next couple of days. There should be plenty of action. But so we'll see, what happens with the police department's answer to this fiasco in Queens. I'm sure you're going to hear more lies, but that'll continue on, and we'll be on top of that. So I'm sure John and Eric in the morning might have a little more about that because there's going to be more details as follows. Vicky Palladino's doing her best, to keep at that because they're going to lie and tell you all kinds of things. But I see Eric Sanders in the chat too. Happy holidays, everybody. Yeah, happy holidays, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Next week, we'll probably have Eric on because there was a lot that he was busy today. He was doing a case because he was writing a lot about some stuff about the soccer mom himself. So we'll get to that next week. So thank you all once again. Thank you all for being here. We love our fans and the haters, especially one in particular here. But we're going to keep growing. We're at 55,000 almost. Subscribers. So keep subscribing if you can. Share this out to all your friends. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. Rumble, like, and Rumble button as well. And on X, share this out, especially to those in that low information bubble. Don't forget, myfreedomcard.com/Sal Greco Show. Shop with people that care about law enforcement and are pro-law enforcement. Actually send funds to law enforcement agencies to help them with their precincts and their local issues involving public safety. So you could shop with real people that care, unlike these people that you might be going through now that you got to shop around and wait 40 minutes and chase your kids around while you're trying to get 1 gallon of milk and you're getting Clorox and things to clean the house, and your kids, you can't even keep track of them. So you just shop from the home. It's much easier. With that being said, happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next week. And I'm signing off from South Florida, which, as you know, is a sunny place for shady people.
Now, I know you're tired of searching on the web for things and not getting the results you're looking for. I have something for you. FreeSpoke. FreeSpoke is a search engine that is all about authenticity rather than agendas. Labels, media bias, no intrusions, or data leaking or your data being taken from you. Porn free, none of those ads, unlimited, unbiased AI, deep dive podcast searching, and you can get it by going to freespoke.app.link/Greco. Use the same link to get a 35% discount on your premium subscription. What are you waiting for, folks? This is the way of the future. FreeSpoke.
What I'm asking New Yorkers for is to look back at all the things I've done as a deputy commissioner for operations, the assistant as assistant commissioner, and my time as a not only as a New Yorker but as a police officer. I get stuff done.
Listen, there was a book that came out that Jasmine Ray wrote, and in the Daily News today, it stated that there was a sexual action that happened in Borough Hall to be put in that book. And it wasn't. You're a dark, sick person, man. You know that? You're a dark, sick person. Your name was on the byline. And there's some of you that have been covering me, You guys could part. Let me do this. Y'all could depart. Y'all could depart. Some of you have been covering me for 3.5 years. Some of you are so sick and dark, and you're the leader of that. You're one of the most dark writers that I've ever seen in this city. And your personal sick vendetta and the sickness of how you think of over-sexualizing a black man, that in the book is stated that there was a sexual action in Borough Hall. That was never in the book. But that's typical of the sickness and the darkness of your sick mind. You're one of the sickest reporters I know. Go to the next question. You're a sick person.